Okay. There we are. Yeah. That was, sorry about that. I know you said it was your internet too. Whatever. Well, it's like not only did
Yeah,
I had to also restart, I guess, my computer too. But not only, but of course it decided to update then too. So now that's why it took so long for me to come back on too. So I'm sorry. But
yeah, that was probably mainly because of mine. My room, my internet in there is not
yeah.
good on my MacBook for some reason. It is great with my PC, terrible with my MacBook. So
Mhm. But yeah, so I guess if you wouldn't mind, I guess don't worry, don't you don't have to go through everything again, but just like the summarize the main stuff you want to, I guess. So I guess yeah, would you mind saying for our audience? I know we know each other, but who you are and kind of what you're into and that kind of thing.
yeah, so my name is Andrew Griffiths. I am a freshman at Iowa State, majoring in meteorology. I'm from the Peoria, Illinois area. Um, I have been into weather pretty much my whole life. Couple events that shaped me were the groundhog blizzard in 2011 and seeing the Washington tornado in 2013 firsthand. Um, I've been storm chasing for 5 years, more seriously for 3 or 4. Um, I'm very interested in mesoscale meteorology, so like a lot of the smaller scale stuff that comes with severe weather and winter weather at times now, but mainly more severe.
Yep.
And then in general, like some other things that I really like to do is big sports guy, college basketball, college football, NFL, a little bit of NBA, and then I also like going to the gym too.
Nice. So since you and I both started out chasing on bike, that definitely I think like for like a lot of people is kind of a difficult concept to kind of wrap their head around. And
Yeah,
so, would you mind kind of explaining how you got into that and your approach to it, and some of your favorite like events that you've chased on bike?
yeah. So I would say like in 2019 and 2020 is kind of when I first started. Started because my parents wouldn't take me out storm chasing, so I just decided, well, if there's a storm nearby, I'm just gonna go on my bike here. And so in 2020, I saw a couple smaller events, but the main headliner was the August 10th derecho that I saw the shelf cloud from it on my bike. So that was kind of a interesting experience because I'm not sure my parents were too happy I did that because I had to kind of race back home and I got home like 3 minutes before it came through. And then there was a swath of like 65 to 80 mile an hour wind gusts that hit our town. And that was one of the more dangerous. 2021 is when, oh man,
Bless you.
thanks.
Hmm.
2021, um, in June of that year, I saw a nice sunset supercell
Yep.
on the 26th. There was a lot of really cool colors with that storm. It had a nice, decently sculpted mesocyclone. So that was cool. And then like the main two events were in October. October 7th, 4 days before where a lot of people on Twitter probably met me from. Um, but that day, 4 days before, I had a couple like smaller supercells that moved into the region and provided some good structure. One of them had a really low wall cloud, so that was cool. And then the main one, of course, is on October 11th, 2021. Had a slight risk of severe storms that day, 5% tornado risk in the tornado watch over the region. Um, just got home from a camping trip. My mom and I ran in a couple errands. As we were coming back, we see a very sculpted updraft, but also small, skinny updraft. And I'm like, okay, that's probably the beginning of a supercell as it was developing ahead of like the main band of storms in western Illinois, eastern Iowa, more so western Illinois. And so as I got home, I got on my bike and actually witnessed it have a funnel just come down from it. Initially, I thought, oh, this was just a funnel cloud, but as the rope out happened, I was more convinced it was actually probably a tornado. And later on, there was somebody with a closer view and some damage reported, and it was an EF0 tornado. And then I witnessed that storm cycle and drop a very photogenic cone tornado that was like 3/4 of the way condensed to the ground. and that was beautiful. The storm was extremely low precipitation. You could see the whole base. I was probably 10 miles away from it at that time, and I was probably 4 to 5 miles away from the first tornado. So that was really impressive. And on the way home, this is probably where a lot of people first met me from, but since I was on bike, and since there was storms earlier in the morning, it was very slippery on the bike trail, and so I took a turn way too tight, and ended up breaking my radial bone and fracturing it right here.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had to walk a half-mile home, and I had to do it quite quickly because the squall line that I aforementioned was coming in. Didn't want to get stuck in the rain, and so I made it probably about 15 minutes before that came in with my broken arm. Thank goodness for adrenaline, because that would not have happened without that.
Yikes. Ouch.
And there was nobody home at first, so I had to wait about 10 minutes for my dad to get home. And then as soon as my dad gets home, we walk out and the squall line just drenches us with rain. I have my arm on like a book as we're going to the urgent care to get checked out, and then I was there until like, I don't know, 11 or 12. That was awful.
Yikes. Yeah, I'm sorry you had to go through that, but like, would you say was it worth it though? You'd say.
Yeah, and that's like kind of one of the events that kind of shapes you.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I forgot to mention this. I mentioned this before we had the technical stuff, which
Yeah.
you guys won't see. But in 2021, my dad did take me out once to see on August 9th, not up to Northern Illinois because he had work, but there was a couple LP supercells that had a nice sculpted updraft and mothership type look. So saw that.
Nice. As far as I think like my bike journey, I think a lot of it's pretty similar. Like that kind of thing about how at first, like early on, my parents were also very against the whole chasing thing, and I wasn't fully like committed to it. I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do that or not. You know what I mean? But I knew that I had been in the weather and looking at storms for years, and I knew that I wanted. Excuse me. I knew that I wanted to see more of them, but around where I live, there's a lot of trees and kind of hills and houses and all that. So it was really hard to just look out my window and kind of see a storm, if that makes sense, or see any good structure or anything. So I knew at one point, I was like, I want to see some more stuff. So June 1st, 2019 came around, and I still regret waiting till basically the end of the season to get out and do this. But I did. I'm glad I did, though, get out eventually. So June 1st, 2019. It hadn't even been a week since we had our EF4 in Linwood and stuff. And there was also a slight risk day, and there were some severe thunderstorms that were going up kind of west and southwest of Kansas City that were coming in. And they looked pretty supercellular as well. Some of them were kind of left movers, but you had some right movers as well. And they were big hailers too. Not like crazy, but I think like mainly in like the quarter range. And some of them, you had some bigger stones in there too, I think somewhere, but like over Kansas City and south of Kansas City. But they missed our house to the south, and so you're able to see kind of all the good updraft structure and anvil structure, and that's when I knew I was like, okay, I really want to start looking at more storms now. So that was really awesome seeing that, and a couple weeks later, run errands. I was out looking at a storm on bike, and then we had to leave to run errands, and then ended up in the middle of it with some hail falling on us and like 60-mile-an-hour winds probably. Then, June 15th, a few days later, it was time to go out again because we had another slight risk, and thankfully it did do something. It kind of had it was kind of like a supercellular thing, but it wasn't like super organized, but it was a supercell still. We had the first one go up to our north that ended up dropping a tornado, but that was way, way to the north. You could just barely see like kind of anvil and updraft a little bit. And then, so I was waiting for development to come to the Kansas City area because the HER model was showing stuff initiating over, but I didn't really know how to use it back then. So I was just taking it literally. So I was like, well, it shows it's going to happen, so I'm just going to stick around, right? And so, heck, I didn't even barely know how the time works. I was like, it shows this. I'm just going to hope it's for this time. I don't know. So, but sure enough, I see kind of a gathered base, and there's nothing on radar yet. And I'm like, I see this base to the south. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. And then the updraft towers go up, and I'm like, finally, okay. And then I get sprinkles on me. And I'm like, okay, we have a severe storm going up now. and then it got east of us, and then it became severe and stuff, and became more dominant, and heard the rumbles of thunder and stuff. And then as it pushed east over the next hour or two, you could see the beautiful like billowing anvil, and like the flanking line. The cell took off on the flanking line and took over and became the next severe cell, so that was cool. And then the sun went down. So June of 2019 was cool. There were some events in there towards like the back end. There were double squall line event, and then the next event after that was another enhanced risk day right on the heels of it. Both of those I tried to bike chase kind of, but like failed. Either I failed or I was like, I'm too tired, I don't want to do it. So it wasn't until, and then there were so many good events that year in the spring, of course, and the fall that I didn't go out for, and the summer really. There was just so many that I didn't go out for, just either because I hadn't started yet, didn't want to, or wasn't allowed to. So it wasn't until 2020, it got to 2020, I was like, all right, I'm going to lock in. I'm really going to try and do this and take it seriously and see as many storms as I can. So it's actually New Year's Day of 2020. It was really warm outside, and I had been looking at this neighborhood just to my north where I was like, okay, there's plenty of views here without trees and stuff. I was like, so I'm going to go up there. Went up there, looked it out, or like scoped everything out to see, like, okay, this looks like it would be a really good spot. So first storm is March 19th, 2020. Nothing to write home about. You had some severe storms going up kind of at the Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas triple point to the north, so you could see those billowing way in the distance. But this was like a day again. I was just hoping something would happen just because the HERS said it would. So I didn't forecast too good back then. But I was like, well, okay. I think this was a slight risk. I think we were on the border of an enhanced though. And
Yeah, I remember there was an enhanced risk that day in like
yeah,
southern central Illinois.
I think there were like two enhanced. It was like a bimodal.
Yeah, there was a bimodal enhanced, and I
Yeah,
really hyped up the other one, and the event busted so much that there's not even an archive of the event. Like, there's not even an SPC archive of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think Iowa had a 10% too, I think. And I don't think
nothing happened up there. It was just hail.
Yeah. So our storm wasn't even severe though. The one that hit Kansas City, like it tried to rotate a little bit after it passed us on radar. I could see, but it did nothing but heavy rain.
Let me see. Like I'm just gonna look at the setup briefly.
Yeah, I mean it had a trough, but it was kind of a flat trough. It wasn't like a very good trough, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like, although I mean with that kind of a warm sector, you had the dews and the moisture and all that. Like it could have been.
Oh, you had a huge like banana low.
That makes sense. Okay,
that's part of it.
Yeah, like with a better
low,
trough,
kind of a bit displaced as well.
Yeah.
A lot of like southwesterly winds, which isn't always bad. Your trough is actually pretty good.
Yeah, I guess for like, I guess
you didn't have the turning of the wind. Oh, unless it was over like the Arkansas, Illinois area.
Yeah, so like it looked interesting, I remember, but it just didn't. I do remember it not living up very well though. So then that year though was overall pretty tame, like in the spring for us and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, coming off of an EF4 the year before, and then all those big, slight, and enhanced severe thunderstorms the year before. It was like it seemed very quiet after that. Obviously, like I think we only had one enhanced that year in Kansas City. I think that was it. So that was July, but so April we had some thunderstorms kind of going up, and a couple of them were severe, but for the most part nothing crazy. Same thing with May. May we did have a big elevated storm wind event, and on May 4th, 2020, where we had those elevated storms come through with all the hail and wind, and unfortunately there was a fatality nearby with that. So those were strong. And then really that was my first time seeing really interesting structure because you had striations and all that. And then the 24th of May that year, there was a good hailstorm that went up, a good supercell that formed basically right over me. And then I got it from a nap by the grace of God, basically. I got it from a nap, and I happened to just wake up, and I was like, there was a slight risk we were in a hatched for hail, but I didn't think storms would form that early or whatever, like that it wasn't modeled, which I didn't know that there was an MCV coming through until afterwards. It's like that played a role in getting it to go, I think. So I wake up from a nap and I'm like, man, it's dark outside. And I look at radar and I see this storm forming, like right in its first like phase, and it has 2 lightning bolts ready. And I'm like, so I scramble and then just instantly fly out the door as fast as I can and bike up to that neighborhood. And so I get up there, and then I see it's not a very big storm at all, but it's just compact, but it's very intense, very dark base and like really thick, like compact core. But like intense looking with some rumbles of thunder here and then a very gnarly like scud and shelf wall cloud thingy. Then it pushes off north and then goes up the updraft towers. It has a few different updraft towers and kind of a small flanking line, and then there's pileus caps, which
Yeah.
there's pileus caps all over. It looks like a volcano went off, and I was like, that's going to be a big hailstorm. And I think even though it wasn't a very large supercell at all, it's pretty small. I think it dropped. I think 2.75-inch hail, so like baseball kind of. So that was a cool event. And then over the summer, we did have a couple kind of small, a couple small mini supercells that went up. I think July of 2020. Yeah, July 2020 and July 29th, I think the day was. It was a general risk day. But I did notice by then I'd gotten a little familiar with photographs and how to use that. And I was like, today looks like there could be a small tornado. I'm not going to lie. And so the supercell goes up right over us, and it's not lightning or anything. It's just rain. It's just a rain shower. And then it's moving straight north, and it goes north of my house. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to get on this. Let's see what we can see. Because we were supposed to have other thunderstorms too. So, and then I get to the neighborhood, and I look to the north, and I see this lowering. And it's not on the ground, but it's just this really suspicious lowering to the north. And then I also saw that that storm had developed a hook. And I see this lowering, and I'm like, is that a tornado? I remember saying that to myself. And I look at radar, I'm like, well, I don't see anything that says it's down really. I'm like, but that's definitely a supercell. And then you could just see, I'm like, a wall cloud and all that. I was like, that looks really interesting. And then it pushed to the north. And then there's other storms kind of from the south that I turned my attention to. And then on my way back from those is when I see that the tornado warning to the north has come out for that one storm now. And it ended up dropping an EF0 in Smithville, Missouri that people got. I think that at least one person got some video of. So that was interesting. That was the closest I've come to seeing a tornado on bike chases, but just barely did not. So, but yeah, that was an interesting one. Then 2021, the spring was very quiet for us. Had a cool anticyclonic supercell May 27th. That I put a camera out ahead of and went home and got some time lapse of it. And then big MCS in June, I think June 11th, enhanced risk for that. And so I got hit by the outflow of that on the way home. Also put a probe for that too. But yeah, I mean, nothing insane, but took probably some 60-mile-an-hour winds. I think it blew like a picket down from the fence up at the church that I would go to look at and stuff. Then what else? I think 25th. Yeah, so there's just various events that summer that had some cool shelf stuff. And then it was the fall, like you say, that same kind of stretch where you saw that October tornado. Like a week or two later, we had the 24th of October, which looked like Kansas City was kind of going to be in some trouble, like a couple days out. And then it became apparent it was going to be kind of north and east of there. But that arc of supercells that produced the tornadoes in northern Missouri that day took off right over Kansas City, basically. So I'm out for that. I thought the day was kind of cooked. I thought storms weren't going to fire until they were way east of me. So I was like, there's no point in me going out. But I'm like, okay, well, hold on. Like, something could happen now. Because I see this arc going up on radar now. I'm like, okay, so let me go. I thought it was like, okay, I think we might have something after all. And then, so I see this beautiful just string of pearls on my way up to the neighborhood, just this like cell 1, cell 2, and cell 3, all the way just lined up going northward. And cell 2 ended up putting down this gorgeous brief rope tornado that one of our news stations and some of our local chasers saw. But it was the one that was going up just to my north, kind of over the airport, like KCI airport. And it had just awesome back shear anvil. Let me see if I have it still, but yeah, awesome back shear anvil with it, and then the crazy just crisp like knuckles on it. It was almost like a cold core, just like, but really it was very cool. And then you have the next cell behind it, which had a good anvil, and that ended up producing a big tornado later. But then the cells that are going to go over me, I look to my west, and there's updraft towers right there that are blocking out the sun. I'm like, oh, I'm about to get hit by a supercell here, but they didn't really take off all the way for whatever reason. I don't know if it's like they were far from the low or what, but they did go up, and I kind of got behind a tree, which is probably a bad idea. But as some wind came through and the front hit and all that, and then all the rain started pouring, but then it was over like that. So, and then you see the back storms again, and then they race off and become tornado warned and drop all those tornadoes. And then the cell 3, which was the most north one, ended up, I think, dropping an EF2 wedge that was on the ground for about 30 miles in northern Missouri. So, yeah, that was an interesting one. But definitely out of reach to see a tornado. Yeah, let me send it to you. I know I said I would. But yeah, so that was an interesting one. 2022 basically had the same exact thing happen on March 5th, only our storms didn't produce. That was the winter set day, though. So it started
Yeah.
right over us and then got severe later on. Had a gorgeous May shelf that year. Then the big one for me that year was the Manhattan, Kansas storm. Excuse me. That's one of my favorite storms to this day still, even though I was 100 miles from it here in Kansas City. That day, it was very much, I thought I was in for like the supercell of a lifetime. That's what models were showing. So later on, when I'm sitting here waiting underneath the anvil of this storm, like, why is it all the way out there? Like, we were under an enhanced, and I think they were in a marginal out there. I was like, why is this thing over here or over there?
Well,
PDS Tor warnings on it. I think it's PDS at one point. I knew there were some chasers on it, so I was wondering. I was like, I wonder if there's anyone on this, because I knew Freddie was on it, and I think maybe some other people. As it was kind of near Maryville, Kansas, or Maysville, something like that, Mayville, Kansas, something like that, north of Manhattan. And then it wasn't until it got close to Manhattan, I was like, you know what? Maybe I could see this thing. Because so I was like, it's really huge. I was like, I'm 100 miles east of it, yet the anvil still went as far east as you could see. Like, it looked like it went to St. Louis. It probably did. Like, it looked like the supercell was basically only like 20 miles from us. That's how big it was. It was just crazy. So I was like, well, what happens if I go look at it? I'm like, if I go back up to that church and just try to make the best out of today? Because I was very upset. I was like, man, all season, I just want to see a good storm. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I decide to go. And then when I get down there, I get up on the hill. And as I crest it, I see this just silhouette of darkness there. And I'm like, it's way over the horizon, but it's out there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no way. Holy cow. And you could see the edge of the anvil where that was, and I'm like, that's insane. It's like, because usually the thing is, there's low clouds and things like that you can't see that far out. But I was like, if the storm is 100 miles away and I'm seeing the other edge of the anvil, that's probably 130, 140 miles I'm looking. I'm just like, because and the fact that you could see that even with the curvature of the earth not mess it up is insane. That just tells you how tall the storm was. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
That was insane. And then when I thought it was, I keep saying insane, but it was. When I thought it couldn't get any more crazy, that's when I saw lightning arcing down from the anvil.
Oh.
Yeah, and there's now chaser video that I've seen where there's chasers underneath the storm that are having the positive anvil bolts crashing all over them, and that's crazy to see. But yeah, they were wicked. But so you just think that you could see all that from 100 miles away still baffles my mind. I think that storm definitely changed the way I see like weather, and it kind of gave me more of like a spiritual perspective of it too. I feel like it was definitely
What
like
day was that again?
June 11th, 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we had like 5,000 capes. That probably had something to do with it. And good trip.
Yeah.
And it was like 2 or 3 already massive supercells that merged. So that's why.
You know what's funny? That day was a day 2 marginal.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I think it was a day 3 general. In fact.
Yeah, it was a day 3 general.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That just shows you how during the summer, there's a lot of stuff that sneaks up on the Storm Prediction Center.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes they're a lot more worried about day 1 and day 2 more than what's to come. And some of the time, your mesoscale features during the summer are very not pronounced until the night before.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was
definitely
wicked.
Definitely one of my favorite parts about summer is the fact that your forecasts are very hard, but it shapes you. That's how you get better is forecasting days like June 12th or June 11th, 2022.
Yeah, for sure.
You picked up on stuff and your pattern recognition bells go ding, ding, ding the next time something like that happens.
Totally.
So,
yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's one of my favorite reasons why I really love summer.
Thank you. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I mean, so I think that was so Manhattan, and then I think I flew.
Yeah, I pulled up the 0Z sounding, and so yeah, you had 5,000 service cape, 3,600 ML cape, and a steep lapse rate profile. Not the steepest ever, but very.
Yeah.
And then a ton of low level streamwise vorticity.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that merger and then combined with all that you just said definitely played a role in that. But I mean, I think seeing Purcell of that size with that kind of visual and not having anything mess it up, like another storm or low clouds, is probably a once in a lifetime thing. I don't know if I'll ever see that again. That was insane.
That would be incredible.
Yeah. And so
Do
I think
you?
that was it mainly for the summer and the year. Honestly, I don't. We didn't really have much the rest of the year. There were some like events in June or whatever, and then I flew out of town. I think a couple
Yeah.
times in the summer. So 23 rolled around, and it was again a just abysmal spring, worse than 2022 for me locally. Now, if I could chase around that year, even within just a 100-mile radius of KC, I would it would have been an amazing year. Like we did have some epic local events. We had the Linnaeus tornado again in that same county after October 24th. We had that big tornado in Linnaeus, that borderline EF2, EF3 wedge. Then there was an EF2 kind of west of St. Joe, Missouri, if you know where that is, in Kansas there on the Spalding Day. And there was also a cyclic supercell that just put down a ton of tornadoes near Emporia on the Cole, Oklahoma day on April
Yep,
19th.
I remember that because
Yeah,
Steven chased that day, and I was helping him.
nice. Yeah, so I mean, there were several storms. Like if that year had been this past year, it would have been an amazing spring. But like locally for the spring, I think we went. That was the first time, probably in recorded history, but at least I can think of, where in Kansas City we didn't have a single severe hail or wind report in the month of May. So I didn't even know that was possible, but it did happen. So yeah, but then the summer definitely was it. The summer came in though and was very really active with thunderstorms. Like that summer, June, yeah, June 30th. I know you've seen the time lapse, but the 30th, that was the first storm where I think kind of more a lot of people saw it and it felt like I had kind of arrived on the scene, if that makes sense, because I posted it to one of my news stations, and this is how the like relationship between me and Joe Loria kind of got started, was this storm. So
Hmm.
another 5,000 basically Cape Day, and it was a stalled boundary kind of right over the area. And I was like, okay,
What day? June.
June the 30th. And
Okay.
yeah, and I knew there were going to be storms going up, probably right on I-70, and that could be an interesting day, even though it's kind of under modeled. Those like, so I see supercells or towers at least go up to the east.
Oh,
Yeah, St. Louis also had a really bad storm too, so you might be
I
looking
was
at.
thinking about chasing this day
Oh, really?
because not to cut you off or anything,
You're
but
fine.
there was a big time MCS model near St. Louis that day and kind of in central Illinois near Springfield, and I was thinking about going out that day.
Yeah, 'cause it was the pattern. That pattern. It
Yep,
was right
that
after the
pattern.
derecho.
Yep.
I remember looking. I
That
remember.
pattern retained, but
Yeah,
as the day went on, it was pretty clear that there was going to be some subsidence and some issues with that. You
yeah.
still got a lot of wind and some big hail down there, but it
It
wasn't going to
wasn't
be
letting.
anything worth my
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I kind of realized in the afternoon.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, definitely. Like it didn't evolve like the previous day, but I remember the
no.
previous day of my birthday, actually June 29th. But yeah, I caught the outflow of the derecho as it started or passed north of us there. So, but yeah, the 30th. So I see these towers going up. And I'm like, all right, it's time to move. And I pull into the neighborhood and I'm like, wow, just look at this. Like just the tallest thing you've ever seen in your life, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna roll time lapse, and this is gonna be the best time I've ever taken. And I do, and then while it's going, I'm just like in awe of this. And like
Wow.
I compare it to Mount Everest, but in reality, I think that storm was like ended up being 2 or 3 times taller than Mount Everest. Like I think, and the echo tops I think were at 61,000 feet. And I remember thinking like, wait, so obviously that's nowhere near space still, but it's through the thickest part of all the atmosphere and all that. So that means you technically be able, I think it's where the Concorde you would fly or whatever. So I'm like, that's basically, if you could stand on top of that storm's anvil, you'd be able to see stars in broad daylight. That's what was insane to me to think about. But so, and then the supercell kind of splits off into two. So you have a left split that went off to the north. So I go up to look at that at a different part of the neighborhood, and probably 30 miles from it, but there was lightning shooting out of it and stuff. It was pretty crazy. And then I think it had 2-inch hail there on the left split, and then the main cell, as it progressed east, it started producing like I think it did 3.5-inch hail at one point. But yeah, it's pretty big. Then another storm comes in from the west that had been producing again ginormous like gorilla hail in Kansas.
There is 4-inch hail in Kansas at 0057Z, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting into. Yeah, yeah. It's like there was
Yeah.
another storm coming out of like Topeka that was producing big hail like that, and then then it morphed into like a MCS, and that ended up producing like 90-mile-an-hour winds or something unholy. So I think Hunter Hurley was on that too. So yeah, and then that just was a bunch of strobing lightning in the distance, and then I had to go home. The sun, it got dark, but yeah, that was I posted that, and every time I post it, people like it too. I mean, I love that video to death too. I mean, the time lapse is just crazy. I mean, yeah, that was one of my favorite days. And then the next big one for me that year was the 14th of July, and that was probably my biggest bike chase. I mean, August of 2021 was a huge one. With I don't think I ever said anything about that one, but yeah, that was a big one. I didn't even. I think again it was like a 5 or 6,000 cape day, but you had zero shear. But the storm went up right away and caught me off guard. I was looking at other storms because it was behind a house, and this is the August day, real quick before I get to the July one.
Yeah.
But it like then it puts out an outflow boundary. And so I go back up to the house, or up on this hill where they hadn't put houses in yet, where you could see above everything. And I see the storm coming. And I'm like, oh shoot, okay. How much time do I have?
Oh.
And so I'm like, okay, well, there's positive bolts, like the smooth, big positive lightning bolts out. That's actually my profile picture, by the way.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, well, I could leave my camera probe here. I'm like, so I did that, and then it got blown down because I don't think I did the anchor part yet. I didn't have that yet. But so then I'm like, okay, this outflow is accelerating really fast, like faster than the storm itself is moving. So I'm like, okay, I got to book it out of here then. And we had positive bolts hitting in the same spot, and I was like, okay, this is a big storm. So I leave, and then I get like, I don't even exit the neighborhood, and then these 50, 60 mile an hour winds hit and start accelerating upward from there probably. And then I turn around and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that because I have to go. Remember how I said my neighborhood is my neighborhood has a bunch of like trees and stuff, and it has power lines everywhere and all that. And I'm glad I didn't go because I'm going to get to that too. But I'm like, nope, I'm not playing with that. So I go back, and then that hill where I was at, where all the dust is, I just see these dust plumes just shoot up into the sky from that. And like, holy cow, like they're just racing across there. Then so there was this lady who I'd kind of known in the neighborhood, and I guess her and her son. And by the grace of God, I go, and she's I guess leaving her house, and her garage is coming up. And so I'm just like, as if right there for me, I was like, okay, thank goodness.
That's immense. Look at that. Wow. Oh, I'm gonna see if I can see. Hi. Yeah, I'm good. It's just I don't know if I'm gonna make it home. Dude. Huh? I mean, well, is it okay if I stay here? Thank you. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I'm just like, I go there and I'm like, hey, can I shelter with you? Because now we're getting crazy winds and the trees are like bending over now. So, and she lets me, and I'm like, okay, thank goodness. And then so we're there, but I keep documenting the outflow and all that. It's not even raining it; it's just outflow from this thing.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and then so I look in that field where I was earlier on the hill, and I see these little dots. Like one of them's pink, maybe it was another like black one. And you know what they were? They were recycling bins that were getting sucked out of the neighborhood. And the thing was, I was also dodging some of those trying to leave before I decided.
That's
I was
crazy.
like, no, I'm coming back. And then, so yeah, that was just insane. And then I didn't think it'd get crazier. And then I hear or something like that. And I'm like, well, it's not lightning. It doesn't sound like that. And I'm like, oh shoot, that was a power line that just went down in like a road adjacent or whatever to the neighborhood. And then the lady living there gets a notice about it too, like a few minutes later. I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought that noise was. And it's like, yeah. So, and then later on, like as I go back up to get that probe or whatever, I'm like, hey, do you have boots or something? Because this is going to be really muddy, and I got to get back up there. And like then you can hear all the fire and like emergency vehicles because of the power line, I'm assuming. But yeah, that was a fun day. Just 2 days before I lost power actually for like 5 hours. So that was an active stretch, but nothing like tornadic.
You know what's funny? That same day I had a lot of really cool lightning near my house.
Really? August 12th, 2021, right?
No. I'm talking about July 14th, 2023.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah, that was the August day I was talking about. Sorry, I was going to get to that. Yeah, you go ahead. Sorry.
That same day I had a good amount of lightning, like here my house from a different system, but like the same pattern you had.
Yeah.
I had a severe watch. I had a few severe warnings that day. There was I don't know if I call it a supercell, but there was a line of storms that kind of moved through, and it was pretty interesting and entertaining.
Nice. Yeah, that was
After you go into that, I'm curious to what other questions you have for me after you go into like your August thing that you were going to talk about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so that was August 12th, 2021. That one I just talked about. So that was one of my, I guess that and July 14th are my craziest bike rides. Yeah. So July 14th of 2023. So not super long ago, but not like yesterday. But so this one, as far as the bike chasing, this was one of my more recent ones because 23 was my last year. Yeah. So that one, I remember like it was still. We had a bust 2 days earlier that was also an enhanced. So it was kind of like, am I getting toyed with, or is this actually going to happen? It's like because, but then somebody had put out on like WX Twitter or whatever, like Kansas City. Oh yeah, that would be a really bad scenario for Kansas City with just wind or whatever and power outages if this model run verifies. And I wasn't sure about it. I think we were in a marginal the day before with a slight just to our south. And then I get up and I see we have an enhanced now, and I see the models are still putting out that squall line. I'm like, okay, all right. And I knew we were kind of on the thermal boundary of like that ring of fire thing too. It was like a mini derecho pattern essentially, and it was big. It was bad enough that people were going to come chase it, but a lot of people went to like central Kansas though, because there were kind of two MCSs that really took off, and they went for the Kansas, like central Kansas one. And so ours goes up though, and like north of Manhattan, and I'm like, okay, then it starts moving southeast, and we're just absolutely baking in 80, 90 degree temperatures and probably 70 plus dew points, all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, it just has that classic summer MCS feel. And so we get a severe watch, and I'm actually leaving for encampment for Civil Air Patrol the day after. So I think my mom was out running errands, getting some things together and stuff. And I'm like, okay. And then as it gets closer, we're under the anvil and all that, and I see a tornado warning comes out to our west for Lawrence. And I'm like, okay, shoot, whoa. And then right after that is when I head out as the storm started getting closer. And it had that like kind of feel like underneath the anvil where it's like it's going to be a big storm, like ahead of an MCS or a supercell. And as I get up to that church to look southwest across I-29 at the horizon view there, you kind of like you could see like kind of some green almost, even though the shelf wasn't even visible yet, but it was just out there, and you had all the lightning you could kind of see a little bit. And I was posting updates to like my Facebook group for Kansas City, like, hey, there's like 80-mile-an-hour winds in this, so just be careful of that. And it progresses closer, and there's just active lightning. The lightning was nuts. And then another multi-cell, single cell-ish kind of thing started forming right to my north, and it's like separate from the MCS, and it became severe at one point. I think had like quarter-sized hail and some little bit of wind, I think maybe. And so the MCS gets in though, and then you can see the shelf cloud. And the worst part of it looked like it was going to pass to our south, which it did, and hit right into Kansas City and all that. But we were still going to get some stuff though. And the shelf cloud had more separation between the rain and itself up north where I was than it did down south. Whereas down south you could see it like bowing, like going into the town or whatever. And so as I'm at this church, this pastor actually comes out, and I think comes out or maybe pulls in or to the drive or something like that, and then or the parking lot, and we end up watching the storm together. And then he tells me some stories actually about like how he was in like Birmingham and stuff, and a tornado and Alabama and stuff, and how he'd get them all the time there. And as we're watching the storm, and it's just the greenest thing I've ever seen. It's just the green was crazy. I'll send you a picture, but.
Did that have a bunch of hail in it?
It didn't actually. That's the craziest part. Now, I think with a lot of those, like it doesn't necessarily take hail to get the green. I think the green helps it. I think you just need a lot of water. Like you just need.
That's probably true.
Because when you think about the ocean, think about how it reflects bluish, greenish, glaciers, all that kind of stuff. I just think you need a lot of water, which it did have. Yeah. And so it passes to the south. And I'm like, well, the shelf is basically over me now, and he's gone back inside. I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm going to get home. I don't know if I should try it because the shelf is over. And like I said, the power lines and trees, I know if I get a big wind, that could take you out. I don't want that. So I'm like, Mom, I'm going to stay here. This pastor's let me stay at the church and stuff. So that's what I do. And then I go out a little bit though to film, and I see the on the shelf or whatever underneath the whale's mouth where we were, I could see dust probably like 5 miles away at the horizon coming out of downtown Kansas City that had been picked up by this. I'm like, holy cow. And after that, I go inside, I think. Then I come back out because I realize I have to reposition the bike to film in the way that I want it to because I had a camera mounted to it. And in the process of doing that and dragging the bike to where I want it to, I did it with like one hand because I was filming in the other one or something like that. Either that or hurrying. And I cut my hand, not bad, but I cut it a little bit. And I remember it scarred for like a few months, and I liked it because it kind of reminded me of that. You know what I mean? In the whole encampment the week after, I was like, hey, look at this though, so you can get through. You know what I mean? It was just kind of cool, this cool thing, whatever. And so as everything moves in, I actually caught my first power flash, which I didn't even realize it was just on that bike camera. Then, so the wind's blowing through, I come out periodically to film, and there's just rain blowing by and all that sort of thing. I never did send you, hold on. But yeah, and everything was just hauling basically, and it's kind of that way. I knew like, okay, well, if I stay behind this wall, I can film and not have my camera get as wet, but it's just hard with the atomized wind and rain. It just makes it hard still.
Man, this is wicked. All right, yeah, we're taking it big time. I wouldn't be surprised if we see power flashes out here. Man, it's crazy just riding this thing out like this. I mean, I'm loving it. This is the first time I've been able to do that on foot. I mean, I just hope everyone, oh my gosh, part of the house. Part of that house, yeah, the gutter. Oh no. Dang, man. I don't want my camera hurt.
So, but I was able to do that, and then as I leave, I thought that I lost one of my cameras or my tripod thing. I thought it blew away. That's how strong I thought it blew. I was like, shoot, did I lose that thing? And then the pastor found it, I think, thankfully. And then as I'm leaving, this big overhead anvil crawler shoots with lightning over, and then I leave. But then I ended up getting a bunch of mud on me because of the way that I had to bike home and all that. It was just very strange. And then I got some of my hand. Yeah. I was like, oh no, that's the hand I cut. I got to wash that. So that was a crazy hectic day. I think we didn't get hit too bad at that church. At one point we lost power, but it was like 10 seconds. But other people in the metro, I think we had like 200,000 power outages, which is absolutely crazy. So for one area alone. So yeah, I think that was like our worst storm since the ice storm of 2020 or excuse me, of 2002 as far as like power outages. But yeah, that was a big deal. No fatalities or injuries that I'm aware of, but I think some people were out of power for like a week or more. So yeah, but yeah, that was that and August 12th are my crazy bike chases. So yeah, I know you were saying weather questions. As far as lately, your chase journey, how has that been for you, and what are some memorable events and people and things like that in the last?
Yeah, there's a lot to go into.